Alright, so I wanted to do a quick video on this Champion open frame digital hybrid inverter generator. It's the model 100573, and it's a little bit different with this open frame. Sometimes you'll see these RV ready generators that have an enclosed frame, but I think there's some worthwhile trade-offs, at least for me. My purpose in getting this is pretty much strictly for RV use, for a travel trailer. We have 30 amp service, and with the RV plug here, this generator is perfectly designed for a trailer that size. So I'll just give you a quick overview of the unit here. So it's got a pull start, your traditional recoil. This also has a battery, so it's electric start, and my favorite feature of all, the remote start. This is awesome. More on this in a minute. Your choke, this is a little bit non-traditional from, I guess, what I'm used to. Right now the button's out, so that means it's in run mode. If you press it in, now it's in choke mode. If you use the electric start feature, it's an automatic choke. So the only time you would ever need to use this is if you're going to use the recoil start. This is a must for me. I got to have a recoil start, just in case there's the battery dies primarily. I still have a way to start the gen. Full power mode here, or if I switch this over to eco mode, it's significantly quieter. This generator is about 64 decibels, which is about 5 decibels louder than their enclosed model. That wasn't a huge deal for me because this is still, for an open frame, it's still very quiet. 12 volt plug here. They also give you a USB adapter that you can plug into the cigarette style plug here, so then you could charge a cell phone. There's also a set of jumper cables too, so you could either jump a vehicle or at least charge the battery. Note on these though, if you're going to be using them to charge up a battery, that's typically not regulated, so it's going to be providing you output power, and it's not going to float that charge, so you're going to want to make sure you monitor your battery. Different breakers, so you got 8 amp on the 12 volt side here, 20 amps on the 120 traditional style plugs, and then your 30 amp breaker for your RV plug. It also does have the parallel kit, so if you wanted to run 2 of these in parallel, you would have 50 amp service on that. You would just need obviously 2 generators and then the parallel kit. So this is 4,000 starting watts and 3,500 running watts. That was important to me to get the 3,500 running watts because you'll see some folks with the 3,000 watt generators that are having difficulty running, especially if you have a 15,000 BTU air conditioner. If you have nothing else running, it would probably work with the 3,000 watt. It will work with a 3,500 running watts, primarily because it's got the 4,000 starting watts. Those 15K air conditioners have a pretty hard start to them. So you need that extra power there to be able to get the unit started, and then at 3,500 running, you won't have any issues running that. Here's something that you should also know. This is a floating neutral generator, which a lot of them are on this size. So what'll happen is, like if I plug in my power protector here, my surge guard, typically what I want is I want to have both of these lights lit up, and that means we've got correct wiring. What happens though is when you go to plug this in, you're only going to get this one light here, which means you have an open ground. There's an easy way to fix this. Champion puts out a service bulletin. You can just pop this panel off with the screws and they'll tell you how to bond the neutral. Otherwise, plenty of plans to do this online. I just made my own plug here where you take the neutral wire here, bond it to the ground. All you do then is plug this in, just like that. Now you're going to have both lights lit up. Now, if you do this, you do have to use the grounding screw here, and you should be grounding your generator. That's just the way that works. I don't really want to get into too much more on that. There's plenty to read about online. Make sure you follow all your electrical codes. So very easy to start. Let me show you how this is so easy to use. All you do when you get set up, so in my case, camping, press the power button and you'll notice that the green light's flashing. What that means is the generator is it's on and it's in standby mode. It's waiting to receive a signal. Now I could start it a couple different ways here. Of course, I can always use the recoil start, but probably the easier way to do it would be if I hit the button again, it'll start. Or my favorite is to simply use the remote. It works great. The remote's got an 80-foot range. My power cord is only 35 feet, so typically I'm pretty close to it, but it works awesome from inside the camper. So to start it, just press the button once. So that's in full power. If I go to eco mode, press the lower button to shut it off. And now it's off. That's super easy. The way that we typically camp is I'll run the generator for about an hour, let it charge up the 12-volt batteries, let it get the refrigerator cold again. We can run any appliances, but then we shut it off. We don't like to listen to a generator the whole time. So this start-stop feature is just awesome for that. It works really, really well. I never thought I would use that so much, but if you've ever been camping and you've had to go out and start your generator all the time, it is a pain. And if you have young kids like we do, you know nobody ever wants to eat at the same time. If you got to fire up a corn dog in the microwave or something, this really, really makes it simple to do that. That start-stop feature is just awesome. The one complaint that I read prior to purchasing this is folks get upset that this electronic, I guess the relay inside or the receiver for the wireless remote will time out after 12 hours of not using it. So people got really upset about that. It's pretty obvious the reason that it times out is because if it were to stay in this on and receiving mode, eventually that little battery is going to die, and you don't want that. I can tell you, camping, we would never go longer than 12 hours without pressing the start button, so it's really a non-issue for me. As soon as you shut the generator back off, that 12 hours, that timer just resets itself. The battery, the starting battery for the generator will also get recharged automatically when you're running the gen. So it's, like I said, it's really not an issue for me. 30 amp service works awesome. This is an inverter as well. So what it does is it takes the AC, converts it to DC into a pure sine wave. So it's under 3% total harmonic distortion. That's important if you're running laptops, charging your phones, running any other sensitive electronics. That inverter technology it's really, really good. Traditional open frame, like the super noisy construction generators, those can have a THD of 20-25%. It's really kind of dirty power, for lack of a better word. It would work fine for running all your construction equipment, emergency use, as like a backup generator or something, but really if you want good clean power, you really need to have an inverter. And with that 3500 running watts, this thing will run anything that I need. 2.9 gallon gas tank, which will run for about 17 hours, depending on the load, of course. I think Champion said about 25% load, it'll run for 17 hours, so no big deal at all. That's great. It'll work the whole weekend for us. Absolutely no problem. And this thing it's not as quiet as like a suitcase. Everybody wants to compare it to the Honda 3000. Well, first of all, remember, this is 4,000 peak watts. So this is another 1,000 watts more than that. I'll take the tiny bit more noise to have that little bit of extra power. And really, if you've ever experimented, you could take a piece of some boards or some plywood, and if you point the exhaust away from you and just put like a piece of lumber to separate you and the generator, it's kind of not a big deal in my opinion. This certainly isn't as noisy as a construction generator. A couple other things to point out: rubber isolation feet, and look at the drain plug for the oil down here. That was well thought out, because to change the oil, which you should do after the first 5 hours, you just simply back out that bolt and the oil falls down in your drip pan underneath, and it doesn't get stuck in any mounting hardware or anything. So I certainly appreciated that. Also has the hard plastic wheels, which I like, because even the so-called run flat ones that are filled with foam often get little indentations in them, and it's really annoying when you're trying to move your generator around. Let me just take you around to the other side quick. Comes with a handle, which is nice. This thing totes around really, really easy. On the business side here, this is the actual generator here. So the fan that spins inside will force some air out of these cooling ports. So you'll want to make sure that this is free because you will have air coming out there. On this side is the muffler and the exhaust. I saw a video online, somebody said this is where the spark plug is. That is not the case, folks. This is the exhaust, and you've got a spark arrestor right here. Make sure that arrestor stays clean. Champion branded engine, I think it's 224 cc's. Super easy access to the carb if you want to drain that in the winter time or something. That's really easy to do. And then on this side, you've got the air intake and then your battery here. I just wired in, got it all tucked away in here, but I just wired in one of these charging plugs. So in the off season, I can just plug this into my trickle charger, and I know that my battery's always maintained here. Little 7 amp hour battery, works great. We had no issues starting this thing up, like, you know, every probably 2 hours, and then let it run for maybe 30 minutes or so. Super easy. Fuel on off switch tucked away in here in case you forget. They give you a nice diagram here. And how about that for service? They give you a telephone number to call, and you actually get somebody to answer the phone if you got a question. So overall, I've been happy with this unit. I've probably got, I don't know, maybe 20 or so hours on it so far. Got the oil change done, and I've just been really happy with it. So anyways, hope you found it helpful, and good luck.